There's a man I met only in his words. He tells us of the excitement he would feel in the pit of his stomach every year as he and his little brother would make their way to their grandparents' home each Christmas. They would wait in the hallway till his grandfather would come out ringing this bell like the Salvation Army. And the door would swing wide, and it would swing open to this unutterable magic. The Christmas tree glimmering, the scent of apple cider and Christmas cookies, and so many presents. It was worth the wait, he would say, thinking it could never get any better than this. That was the light part. But tucked away, just around the corner, there was also darkness. Because that's the way life is. Just a month before his 10th birthday, his father committed suicide. And only a few days later, his grandfather would die. As much from a broken heart as anything else. And not long after that, his father's youngest brother committed suicide too. The truth is that even before that all happened to that little boy, it was all somehow there in that magical room, that room of unutterable magic. It was all somehow there, waiting to happen. There was with that glittering tree, there with the scent of apple cider and Christmas cookies, there with all of his aunts and uncles and cousins. And you know, not all the love in that room was enough to keep that stuff from happening. There was not Christmas enough in all the world to save the day. There was not Christ enough in all the world to save the day. That is what Jesus is trying to tell us in this apocalyptic passage that you just heard proclaimed this morning. That while there is unutterable beauty, there is also darkness just around the corner. And both can exist together. And that someday that light, someday, we say with longing, absolute longing, someday that light will win the day. That's our wild and beautiful hope. This beginning of this Advent season, or one wild and beautiful hope. Jesus speaks here of a cosmic upheaval. But is that cosmic upheaval of the world without or the world within? Does he speak of the end of the world as we know it, the heavens and the earth, or of the end of the world as we know it in all of our relationships, our work, the status quo, what we've come to expect? In his words, there will be signs in the sun and the moon and the stars, Jesus said. You will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. And when you see the fig tree putting out its leaves, you know that summer will come. Will be, he says. Will see. Will come, he says. If we take those words of Christ seriously, then the realest, the truest, the most authentic thing we can do as followers of Him is to wait. To wait with a passion. To wait with hope against hope for those mysterious words, those words of Jesus, to be fulfilled. If we forget that we are waiting right now in our lives, if we believe that the best we have found of God is already here in these shadows, and that this is the best there is, then doing this is the most God, that doing this, going to church, Advent wreaths, purple vestments, that doing all of this is all we have to do, it's all God expects of us, then we have lost touch with the very depth of our souls. But if there is not Christ enough to save the day, maybe, just maybe, there is Christ enough to make the day bearable. To wait for Christ to come in His fullness is not a passive thing, a pious, prayerful, churchy thing. On the contrary, to wait for Christ to come in His fullness is above all else to act in Christ's stead as fully as we know how. To wait for Christ is, as best we can, to be Christ to those who need us, to be Christ to those most in need, and to bring them the most we have of Christ's love, the most we have of Christ's healing. And hope, keep hoping, because unless we bring it, it may never be brought at all. It may never be brought at all, as surely it was not brought to those two young men and that old man in this other man's childhood. As surely it was never brought to those whom that man shared his Christmases with all those many, many years ago now. My friends, it is time now for each of us to cast off our works of darkness, whatever they are, and put on something at least a little bit more like light as we wait for the truth of Christ to come, the love of Christ to come finally and forever, fully, at last. Even knowing the darkness that lurks just around the next corner, how can we not feel some excitement still in the pit of our stomach these Advent days, because of the hope we have that someday, my friends, there will be Christmas enough. There will be love enough to save the day.